Yesterday on the show, I told you that I think a 30% correction is coming, and I thought it was very imminent. It wasn't the first time that I told that. In fact, if you look at the show that I made on the 17th of November, which was about 8 or 9 days ago, I said specifically that I think we're going to get a correction. And now the correction seems to be here. And the truth is that if we break below this trend line over here, then I think it's going to spread a lot more to the altcoins. And the bad news is that if it does do that, I think that the next stop is between $78,000 and $80,000. So I'm going to talk to you about why I think this crash is coming, and I'm going to talk to you more specifically about the reason for this crash, the actual underlying reason for this crash. Let me tell you, it's going to shock you when you hear why I think we're about to get this 30% correction. But anyway, even if we get the 30% correction, I do think it's a 30% correction that we were fully prepared for and expecting, and I think it's pretty normal in the bull market, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So it's here, we called it, we should be ready. Let me show you exactly what it's about, and let me show you how quickly we're going to recover. So let's go, guys. Look, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. I did say that we're going to get a correction. In fact, you know that the first time that I made a video about this correction, I got so much hate in that video. It was on the 17th of November, where I said, I said that there's going to be a correction, and I introduced the 𝗪𝗪𝗡𝗬. And I mean, I got so much hate in this chat because the prices were so high back there. But I mean, I think now it's all playing out, and I'm going to show you exactly why it's playing out. And I think it has something to do with MicroStrategy, actually. And I know it doesn't sound right that MicroStrategy are the ones that are responsible for the Bitcoin crash, but I think indirectly MicroStrategy is actually involved in this crash. The good news is, though, that we predicted this crash and that we've been ready for this crash. And the truth is that if you look at some of the charts that I marked in the beginning of this crash, which is it's this chart over here, where I literally said to you, I'm taking a chance selling my PopCat over here, and I think it's going to follow this line. And that's exactly how it played out. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but specifically if you have been following us here on this channel. If you haven't been following us here on this channel, well, that's why you probably got caught off guard. So my suggestion is, if you haven't been one of the subscribers to this channel, if your notifications haven't been on, get subscribing as quickly as possible, because I think we've called this cycle absolutely perfectly. And I think that the 1.1 million people that are subscribed have got it. So I need you guys to subscribe. If you're here and you enjoy the alpha, all I need you to do is smash the like button. I'm going to blow your mind today with the alpha, and I'm going to blow your mind today with the analysis. All I need you guys to do is to help me share this video by smashing the like button. Anyway, let's get into it, and let's talk about what's happening exactly and why I think that MicroStrategy is a big part of why this is actually happening. And as Ali says, I think it is just the beginning. Unfortunately, it's the beginning of the first real correction. So let me show you what I'm thinking. So I mentioned to you that I think that this is the beginning of the first real correction. I've been kind of warning about this correction for a while. Now, the truth is, when we break below this point over here, if you look at the charts, there's not many resistance levels below that line until about here. And I'll show you what that level is here, or until about this level. Hold on, let me try and find it for here. So it's this level over here, which is the CME gap, which was closed, which needs to be closed. It's the only CME gap that's not actually closed, and it's somewhere between $77,000 and $81,000. And so my view is that we'll probably, if we break below this line over here, my view is that probably the next stop is around the $77,000 to $87,000 level. $80,000 to $77,000 level. Now, as I said to you guys, this is something that I actually spoke about yesterday. I mean, you'll remember if you watched the show yesterday. I'm gonna make the screen in screen. But you'll remember if you watched the show yesterday that I said this. So if there is a leverage flash coming, and it is coming, I mean, it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks, but there is a leverage flash coming. You don't want to be holding the hot potato, right? And the problem is that I think that we could get this leverage flash sooner than we think. And I'll tell you why. I ran a little bit of an analysis. And in that analysis, I went to all the Black Fridays. And I started in 2018, and we had a 33.5% drop in 2018. But okay, 2018 was a down market. So I called it yesterday, and I said, look, generally we have Black Friday corrections. If you look at this chart over here, you can kind of see that we have these Black Friday corrections all the time. And specifically, if you look at 2020, on the week of Black Friday, we went down 20.6%. Now, that was also in a bull market, and it was also in an election year. So the two the similarity between the two is completely uncanny. So I think we may be following that. You'll also remember that it wasn't the first time that I actually called it. If you remember this video over here, which I made on the 17th of November, I said that I think the altcoin correction is coming. I think it's coming on Black Friday or in the week of Black Friday. Just listen to what I said here. You need to go into your old portfolio and you need to go afuera, afuera, afuera. Just get rid of it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do on my portfolio, right? Also, notice the hate that I'm getting. Which I shouldn't notice the hate that I start getting here. I'm going to go and I'm going to afuera, afuera, afuera. I'm not going to do it immediately. I'm going to do it over the next 2 weeks because I don't know if this retail run is over quite yet. In fact, I think there may be a little bit more gas in the tank here, a little bit more retail investors actually coming in here. But that is where you get your cash from. So let's quickly go through the strategy because it's actually a bit longer. So number one, be 30% in cash when the dip comes. That is the underlying part of the strategy because that is the only way that you can turn back the clock. Number two, sell your dinosaur coins. Okay, this opportunity shouldn't have happened, but it did. When things happen that shouldn't have happened, but they do, you grab the bull by the horn. So that was when I called it on the 17th of November. On the 18th of November, I actually gave you guys, or I introduced you guys to the cash, or the 19th of November, I introduced you guys to the cash meter. And I said, look, you've got to be 30% in cash by the time this correction comes. And I actually even told you that I think it's going to happen on Black Friday. Like, you can listen, I actually said it, when this dip actually happens. Now, I have a theory about when this dip could actually happen. I'll share the theory with you. It's not like I'm a prophet. I don't know. But I remember from being in multiple cycles that Black Friday is generally not a good time for Bitcoin. In 2020, so I actually literally said that I think it's going to be the week of Black Friday. And now we are here at the week of Black Friday and we're starting to get this correction. Now, what I said in this video was I actually said one of the chances that I'm actually willing to take is I'm willing to take the chance that these altcoins, when I made the list, I actually said I'm willing to bet that these altcoins, even though they may go up a bit, will actually start coming down. We'll go through the list, but you can see that was exactly when the meme coins actually started to top. And so now we're getting the correction. And if you look at PopCat here, I'm just using one example. That was at like 199 when I called for the correction. And I think if we look now at PopCat, just to give you an idea of how spot on that call actually was, it's now back at 121. So that you can actually see it's exactly the same chart. It's now back at 121. That wasn't the first time that I called this correction. If you listen to our morning call which we do with our front runners every single morning, and you look at the one specifically on September 30th, which was about 2 months ago, I specifically called it.
What else is happening?
Rishi made this Black Friday thing that you said, the fractal.
Yeah, they're not bad, eh? I mean, it's not bad.
So this was on the 30th of September. I actually said to the researchers on the front runner call, and we have a call with our front runners every single day in the morning. We have a call with our front runners and we discuss what's happening. And on that call, I specifically called that I think there was going to be a correction. Now, the truth is, if you want to get into front runners, we are closing the waiting list on Friday. And between now and Friday, there's a 50% off Black Friday special. This is probably the best investment you'll make in this bull market. And it's 50% off, and there's only 3 days, and then it's closed. You won't even be able to get in because the waiting list just gets closed. So my suggestion is go to the link below and go and take out this front runner thing. So how did I know this was going to happen? What were my warning signs? How did I know this correction was actually going to come? Well, the first thing is I started seeing the signs of heating. I saw very, very high leverage in the market. And the high leverage is actually still here in the market. I told you guys that I saw the fear and greed, and I just said that people were being too greedy, and it just made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Then I saw the dino coins mooning, and I kind of said, look, if the dino coins are mooning, if the dinosaur coins are mooning, well, that's for sure for me a sign that this is now over leveraged and that retail is coming in here too quickly and that it's probably a good time to sell. I also looked at the stochastic RSIs, and remember I spoke to you yesterday and I said that when the stochastic RSI gets to these levels, you get a stochastic RSI pullback, and then we get a pullback in the market. But there were other signs of froth, and I think CZ also saw them. The other signs of froth was everything that was going on at pump.fun, right? Like, don't know if you guys have been watching what's been going on at pump.fun, but that video feature where people could live stream to encourage people to buy their coins was absolutely mad. I mean, I don't want to play the music because I'm going to get a thing, but this is what people were doing on pump.fun. That's usually a sign of froth in the market. And so whenever we get froth in the market, the leverage comes in and destroys the froth in the market, and then we're going to continue. And I think you'll be glad to know that after all these videos on pump.fun, I think pump.fun removed the live streaming feature because people were going mad. People said that they were going to commit suicide if their coins don't go up. People, like, they were going to kill people. It was crazy. It was crazy. So that was how I knew that this correction was actually coming. Now, said to you before that I think that this is just the beginning of the correction. I don't think that this is the correction. I think that this is the beginning of a correction. And as I said to you, I think if we break down below this line over here, then I think it's going to get a little bit worse. So I think what we're looking for now is we're looking for Bitcoin to stay above this trend line over here. And right now, if you look at it, the altcoins are holding pretty okay. Like if you look at ETH is at 3,320. Solana is still at $230. But I think what's going to happen is when we break lines or thresholds, lines on the charts. So I think like when we get to 90,000, which is somewhere around here, then I think more altcoin peoples will capitulate, right? When we get to, let's have a look here. When we get to 90,000, I think more altcoin holders are going to capitulate, right? So that I think is going to be the first point of capitulation. Then we're going to go much more into a much deeper altcoin capitulation. So you want to keep this line level over here, because under that there's going to be much more altcoin capitulations, even much more than we've had. We've had $700 million. We've had $700 million liquidated in the last 24 hours. And I think, again, this is just the beginning. And I think one of the levels that we could stop at is between this 80,800 and the 77,200 level. Now, again, this is not a surprise at all. We knew this was coming. This is very, very, very typical of bull market corrections. It is also very typical of bull market election year corrections. Specifically, if you look at the charts, if you look at 2017, a 35% correction is nothing, specifically after a run-up like this. And if you dig a little bit deeper in the charts, like a 2020 year, right? So if you look at 2020, 2021, what you'll notice is that the corrections get a lot lower. The corrections get a lot less. So 15, 21, 16, 31 versus the much bigger corrections that we had in 2017, right? The corrections in the 2020 year are much smaller. And also, if you look specifically at the 2020 year, which was an election year, which was the beginning of a bull market year, it was very, very, very similar to this. 2 days before Black Friday, we got a 17% correction. But after that, the market went up another 159% thereafter. And so what you're looking for in these corrections is you're looking for the speed of the recovery. So it's not about how, the correction going down is one thing. But the idea is to see how long you go from the top down to the recovery. So here, you got a 16%, 21%, 15%, 31% correction. But how long does it take to go down? Well, 14 days here, 6 days here, 3 days here. Here it was a bit longer, but it was the beginning of the bull market. It was before the aggressive move up. So I think that we're going to get this correction, but I think it's also going to happen pretty quickly. Like I think worst case, in 2 weeks, this correction's over. And then it takes pretty quick to get back to where it was. Like here, it took 4 days to get back to the levels that we were. Here, it took 17 days to get back to the level where it was. Here, it took a little bit longer. Here, it took about a month and a half to get back to the pre-dip levels. So I think this is very, very, very normal. Specifically, it is very, very, very normal in an election year. Specifically, it's also very normal on Black Friday. So really, really, really nothing to panic about. And also, if you just look at like a simple metric of the M2 money supply, which Bitcoin has always tracked, this is also calling for 20-25% correction. And that will take us back to 77,000 or 80,000. So nothing alarming about this. In fact, very, very, very healthy. This is what helps us continue in a bull market. This is what helps us carry on going in a bull market. You got to keep in mind that, just look at the candle in Bitcoin. you cannot have a market that's going to continue to go up without corrections. And if you just look at the monthly candle, just look at like what that chart pattern looks like. When you have a correction that's that big, you're going to get a bit of a leverage flush out. And that's just absolutely that's just actually part of it. And the reality is that we're not 100% ready for it, but we should have been ready for it. I told you guys, number one, I said to you guys, let's start putting money into cash and let's aim to be 30% in cash by Friday. I'm now 11% in cash. I've got a couple of things that I'm going to carry on selling in the next day or two. I should be at about 15 or 20% in cash by the time this thing bottoms out. I have been waiting for this. So to me, this is nothing new. I've got a list. I've got a list. Remember, I told you that one of the smartest things that you can do is that you can create a buy list, and that you should create this buy list before the market actually corrects. Because when the market corrects, people are going to be calling for meme coins will never recover again, and this is going to be the end of the world. And the reality is that because my list is ready, I'm pretty much going to stick to this plan. I'm going to stick to this plan. I know now it doesn't feel like maybe meme coins are going to recover. Or I know now that maybe AI agents aren't, or AI is not the flavor of the day, right? But that is because right now people are starting to get a little bit more panicked and a little bit more fear. I think this correction will end when the leverage goes down to much more reasonable levels, and when the fear and greed goes down, to much more reasonable levels. That is when it's going to happen. So I don't suggest that you start buying yet. I suggest that if you don't have a list, maybe make a list. I think that you should maybe make a list, but I don't suggest that you actually start buying this dip yet, because I think the leverage is still too high, and I think that the fear and greed is still too high, and I just don't think that it's the right time to actually be buying this dip. Another thing which I think is going to happen now, I think we're going to have a bit of an altcoin rotation, right? So I think you already started to see it. You started to see more money rotating into ETH. You started seeing money flowing out of Bitcoin being overheated, going into ETH. That wasn't the only rotation that we actually had. There's actually quite a clever tweet. He said the biggest problem that ETH has is that every time it pumps, people get so horny for it, they sell their Bitcoin for it. And then when Bitcoin goes down, it nukes the whole market. And so that's like been so hard to get the altcoin rotation. The other thing that we're seeing is DeFi coins that are up 50% from 2 weeks ago, where at the same time the meme coins have been taking a little bit of hit, which is quite good. Like here, this meme coin DeFi is up 30% in the last 7 days, and memes are down. We're down 8.6%. So this is quite good. We're starting to get a flow of capital from the casino to the other casino where there's slight fundamentals, which is exactly what we predicted. We also realized that the meme coins, as I said to you, the meme coins would be the one that would be the hardest hit. And so that's why it's important to make your list before. And you can see that if you look at our buy list, this date here was the 17th of November. And you can see that Popcat was at about 190. And I said to you guys, you're going to get a much better opportunity to buy these things. So let's just look at 𝗙𝗥, which is another one that we have on our list. And let's look at where it was on the 17th of November. So here's 𝗙𝗥. You can actually see it's still marked. And I said over here, let's sell it because it's actually going to follow this line. And here it is exactly at the bottom of the line. And I think it's going to continue to actually go down. So I think that the call was made perfectly on time. And I think that, we could have maybe accumulated more cash, or certainly I know that I could have accumulated more cash, which I didn't do. I think what we're watching for now is we're waiting to see if Bitcoin goes below this line, because that's this line over here is your sell, not everything, but sell all your leverage line. If it stays above this line, then I think we're safe for now. Then I think we're safe until it basically breaks below this trend over here. So that's what I think is going to happen. But I think more importantly, let's look at another reason why I think this correction may happen, and why I actually think that even though Michael Saylor has been the most prominent proponent for Bitcoin, has really helped the industry, I'll actually show you why maybe what's happening now is becoming a little bit dangerous, right? So you'll remember that I said on yesterday's show, I said, one of the things that's worrying me about this market is the fact that MicroStrategy has been such a big buyer. And we've seen this for a long time. We've seen MicroStrategy announcing these massive buys. So you've got 55,000 for $5.4 billion. You've got $51,000 at $4.6 billion. You've got 27,200 Bitcoin for $2.03 billion. And so what you're realizing is that MicroStrategy has been the real buyer of Bitcoin. And it has been effectively pushing up the price of Bitcoin. Now, it's not artificial. It's their business model. Their business model is a genius business model. But ultimately, what you're getting is you're getting these crazy, crazy, crazy buys from MicroStrategy. And if you were to put it into a graphic, the red is MicroStrategy buys. And you can just see that how MicroStrategy has bought much, much, much more than the ETFs and much more than anybody else and even much more than the Bitcoin that are actually being mined. And this was for me a little bit of a warning bell. And the reason why it was a bit of a warning signal is because I know that MicroStrategy have this plan to buy $42 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? Which was $21 million in equity and $21 million in debt, right? But they were buying it too quickly. When he was buying 3 billion and 5 billion and 4 billion and a whole lot of and billions and billions and billions. So when you get to a point where all these buys happen, I kind of got to a point where I thought to myself, hold on a second, Michael Saylor is the one that is keeping the Bitcoin price up. Because when you have a buyer in the market that's buying $5 billion a month, he's propping the market up. And at some point, he's going to stop propping the market up. And then who's going to push the prices up by as much as Michael Saylor has been doing? And this is where I think the danger is actually. Right now, Michael Saylor has been pushing up the price of Bitcoin through his genius infinite money loop. And for those of you who don't understand how this infinite money loop happens, I'll show you where the danger is. So I think you need to really, really, really understand what MicroStrategy does, because I think a lot of people don't understand what MicroStrategy does. A lot of people think that all Michael Saylor is doing is he's actually buying Bitcoin. He's buying Bitcoin, but it's not that simple. It's a little bit more complicated. And to understand the complication, you need to understand the structure of how they do it. So you'll appreciate that every company, or not every company, but most companies have equity holders, and those are the shareholders. Those are the people that have a stake in the company, and they have debt holders. Debt holders are people that don't have an equity stake in the company. They don't share in the profits of the company, but they get a fixed return on their debt, right? And in finance, what we call these guys is we call this fixed income instruments. Now, what is a fixed income instrument? A fixed income instrument are debt instruments that pay a fixed rate, which can include debt that's issued by government or corporation. So, for example, if I have a company and I want to raise money, I can either go and sell equity, but then I'm selling ownership in the company, or I can go and sell debt. Debt says, look, you'll loan me $1,000 for my company, and my company will pay you a fixed interest rate every single month. Now, what's important to understand is that generally, the people that buy fixed income are fixed income investors, and they don't invest in equity. And so their return is limited to getting the returns on the fixed income, right? So just think about this. There are certain funds and certain individuals and certain family offices, and their mandate says, look, you can't invest in equity, you can't invest in ETFs. Your mandate is to only invest in fixed income securities, right? And so what Michael Saylor did is he created an offering for these fixed income funds. And basically what he said is, look, you can loan me money. I will pay you interest on that money. I will use the money to buy Bitcoin, and then I will repay you your money. I'll repay you your money and some kind of return. So that's pretty much the MicroStrategy business model. But it gets a little bit more complex. And I'll explain to you why it gets a little bit more complex. Because Michael Saylor has actually found a loop in the system. And so the loop in the system basically comes from this thing over here, where if you look, this is the offering that MicroStrategy does. And what he says is, we're raising a whole lot of money. They announce an offering of, for example, a $2.6 billion principal. And he also says, the interest rate is 0%. And you may ask yourself, well, why would anybody loan MicroStrategy money knowing that they're going to get a 0% interest rate so that MicroStrategy can go and buy Bitcoin? This is where the loop comes in. The loop says that this debt is convertible into equity, and specifically this note was convertible into equity in 2029. So what does that mean? It means that if you hold the debt, you're not going to get any interest rate payments. But in 2029, you're going to be able to convert that debt into MicroStrategy shares. Now, generally, for the fixed income funds that are earning 5%, 4%, 10%, 9%, depending what kind of debt they're buying. Here they see an opportunity to actually get a lot more, because if their debt is convertible into MicroStrategy stock and the price of the stock is higher, in terms of their guidelines, they're allowed to invest in that because they are investing in a fixed income, but they would get the return of the equity. So what you can see here is it says the notes, convertible senior debts. Let's just see if it shows you what the premium is. Let's just see if we can find what the premium is. Here it goes. It says this will be converted into MicroStrategy common stock at least 130% of the price. So I mean, just to simplify it for you guys, and I'm getting to the punchline in a second. So this is a letter or a tweet written by the 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗡𝗧𝗥𝗡. It says everyone's talking about MicroStrategy and why the MicroStrategy business model has got nothing to do with their business, but it's how they raise money for Bitcoin. And how do they raise money for Bitcoin? Well, they announce a $3 billion offering. The craziest part, with a coupon rate of 0. Investors lend MicroStrategy money at 0 interest rates, but the strike price of 672. So here they're saying if the share price gets to 672 in 2029, then your fixed income will convert into equity. So that means that if you're holding MicroStrategy shares and the shares go to $1,000 by 2029, you get the shares at $672, which means that you've made the return not only on the MicroStrategy, and you've made the return, not a fixed income return, you've made 0% on your fixed income, but as a fixed income fund, you're now getting a return of $1,000 less the strike price of the option, which is $672. So what basically happened is MicroStrategy found a loop in the system to allow fixed income investors and investors that couldn't buy ETFs and that couldn't buy Bitcoin the opportunity to get Bitcoin exposure. How do they do it? They borrow money at 0% and they convert into MicroStrategy equity at some point far down in the future. And so effectively what MicroStrategy is doing is they borrowing money from investors, investing the money into Bitcoin, and then because they're investing the money into Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price goes up and the price of MicroStrategy also goes up, right? And it's like Fred Krueger said, he says, the reason MicroStrategy works is because of over-regulations. A lot of people can't buy ETFs. British citizens can't buy BTC ETFs. Fixed income funds can't buy equities. Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley are subject to bank regulations. They can't offer ETFs. But what they can do is they can offer you to buy debt in MicroStrategy, which converts into equity, and that's effectively the MicroStrategy loophole. So this is quite funny, but it's actually true. Rip Van Winkle says, hey, Saylor, Saylor says, hey, lend me $100. Okay, at what interest rate? Well, I won't be paying you any interest. Then the lender says, well, why should I lend you any money? He says, because I'll pay you back even more than you'd earn with market interest rates. I'll pay you back in MicroStrategy shares once they clear the strike price in terms of the convertible note. The shares are very likely to be worth much more than $100 in a year. There are no guarantees, but the odds are you'll make $200, $500, and even $1,000 on the $100 loan. Where else can you get returns like that? Lender, nowhere. Have you done this before? Yes, it's worked. My converts have crushed all the other bonds and all the stocks. And so the lenders go, well, that's amazing. So you now understand how the MicroStrategy infinite money loop actually works. But here's where it gets a little bit crazy, okay? And so, again, I think one of the reasons for this correction is because there have been all these sellers which MicroStrategy has been absorbing, but now Michael Saylor has raised $7 billion or $10 billion in the last month, and now people are going, okay, well, who's going to keep the price of Bitcoin actually going up? The concerns about this are things like this. So you look at this and it says, Dr. Danny says, honest question, how is MicroStrategy not considered a Ponzi scheme? By the way, I don't think it is a Ponzi scheme. MicroStrategy stock goes up. Saylor sells more MicroStrategy stock to buy Bitcoin. The buying increases the price of Bitcoin, which makes the price of MicroStrategy go up, which means Saylor can raise more money. Now, I'll show you another thing which Jason Calacanis said. He said, so let me get this straight. You're taking out loans against your Bitcoin holdings in order to buy a lot more Bitcoin, which lowers the supply of Bitcoin, which makes Bitcoin go up, which makes the stock go up, which create a gap between the Bitcoin holdings and the corporate valuation, which makes people short the stock, which creates a short squeeze, which makes the stock go up even further, which makes the gap between the holdings and the valuation higher, which makes more loans, which makes more short squeeze. You get it. So it's basically like you buy Bitcoin. As you buy Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin goes up. As the price of Bitcoin goes up, your share price goes up. As your share price goes up, you can borrow more money and you can give people a higher strike price. And so you're creating this infinite money loop, which actually just pushes the price down. So here's where it gets a little bit dangerous. The first part is, I mean, it's pretty clean and everyone knows what they're getting in for. And it's pretty cool. The only problem is the following. What happens when Michael Saylor owns more Bitcoin than Satoshi? What happens on that day when one company lands up owning more Bitcoin than Satoshi Nakamoto? And this is what 𝗙𝗔𝗔𝗥𝗢𝗡 actually spoke about. He said, Michael Saylor is now the second most powerful person in Bitcoin after Satoshi. He can single-handedly decide the fate of any future contentious issue by simply saying, it's my way or I dump it all. This is where it actually sounds a bit crazy, but it's true. So up until now, what we've said is that theoretically, no one can decide on, no matter how many Bitcoin you held, you couldn't change the design of Bitcoin. You couldn't fork the network because the miners all had to agree to fork with you. Now, that is the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. In proof of stake, the more ETH you have, the more of the validators you own. But in Bitcoin, on proof of work, that's not supposed to be the case. In Bitcoin, no one is supposed to control the network, no matter how many Bitcoin they have. The only people that control the network are the miners, and the more the mining capacity agrees to a change, the more chance that change will happen, right? But this is quite a good point, because as Vinny says, if Michael Saylor lands up holding, let's say, 2 million Bitcoin or 3 million Bitcoin, and he decides that he doesn't want to support a certain fork, then all he can say is, look, if you guys do this, I'm just going to dump my Bitcoin. Now, that's quite scary, right? That's like quite a scary scenario to be in. Now, I don't think that he'll ever do this because he has a lot to lose if he does this, right? Remember, his wealth and his company valuation are linked to the price of Bitcoin. And so chances are he would never do this, because if he did this, the price of Bitcoin would dump. And as the biggest holder of Bitcoin, he would dump the price. He would lose the price even more. So the 𝗧𝗛𝗘 says, if Michael Saylor sold, he would go down as having placed one of the best trades of all time. So far, he's made 14.9 billion on his Bitcoin. But to put it into perspective, here are some of the biggest in history. So you had John Paulson's bet against subprime mortgages. Paulson's hedge fund earned about $4 billion. George Soros also once shorted the British pound, and he made $1 billion doing it. It was a very famous thing. And so what we realize is that right now, this situation can have a little bit of danger for Bitcoin, because if the supply becomes too centralized in one person's hands, right, then if we don't do what Michael Saylor says, he'll say, okay, I can just dump the Bitcoin. Now, I remember in the olden days, there was a guy called Dr. Craig Wright who claimed that he was Satoshi. And then he claimed that if the people weren't going to fork Bitcoin, he was going to sell all the Satoshi Bitcoin. Now, that turned out to be false. And obviously, Craig Wright's not Satoshi. But what we do know is that this can happen now. And that you can get one seller threatening to dump the price of Bitcoin, which may actually dump the price of Bitcoin. Now, the big thing here is look, as I said, I don't think it's going to happen. And some of you, I can see in the comments, are saying, well, the ETFs actually also own a lot of Bitcoin. They own much more than Michael Saylor owns at the moment. And to be honest, you may be right for now. But the difference between the ETFs and MicroStrategy is that the ETFs are investors, just like me and you. They're investors. And these investors make a decision whether or not to sell the ETF. With MicroStrategy, it's slightly different, because Michael Saylor is the CEO, and the CEO can basically decide to do whatever he wants, however he wants. And for as long as he is the CEO, he can just decide to dump the Bitcoin, right? Now, Larry Fink can't do that, because the ETF holders actually have to sell the ETF shares, or the shares in the ETF, to actually get the Bitcoin. And so there's a big difference between MicroStrategy, which is a one-person point of failure, and a BlackRock, which is not a one-person point of failure. Now, as I said to you before, I don't think Michael Saylor is going to do this. I think it's crazy. But it's important that we understand that the reason why this is happening is because you do have one buyer who, again, the reason why I don't think Michael Saylor is going to do it is because if you just look at like the amount of money that this guy's made on his Bitcoin, I don't think that, he's made, let's just have a look what the actual number, I think he's made like 15 billion. He's $13 billion up. And as the price of Bitcoin goes up, he can make a lot more. But if he is forced to sell and he continues to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate more Bitcoin, this does become this single point of I won't say failure, but this single seller scenario where if for any reason MicroStrategy needs to sell their Bitcoin, you've got one crazy thing. But the good news is that the other companies that are jumping up, that are starting to do exactly what MicroStrategy is doing. So I think by the time that happens, what we could have is we could have a lot of other companies doing exactly the same thing. There's MetaPlanet in Japan, and there's a couple of others in the United States. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to get these meta planets and these others moving up, and they'll be able to absorb. They're doing the same model as MicroStrategy, and they'll be able to absorb the selling, hopefully, if and when this happens. But again, I think the reason why we're getting a bit of a correction now is because the market's going, well, if Saylor's bought $8 billion or $10 billion in the last month, or maybe even more, then hold on, he's going to run out of money, and he's going to run out of money any day. And then when he runs out of money, who's going to be propping up this market? And at the same time, we've had a very, very, very heated market. And so people are kind of going, well, okay, well, this has to happen. Now, again, I think for now we're safe. I think we need to just stay above this line. If we stay above this line, I think this run carries on. If we break below this line, which we broke through before, but if we close below this line, then I think you've got to close some of your leverage longs and whatever else and try and get into the 30% in cash, because maybe we don't get the correction today. Maybe it comes in a week. But ultimately, if history is anything to go by, and history has been a very, very, very good indicator, then I think that we have to get a correction. Whether it happens this week and we get a 17% correction, or whether it happens next week and we get another 12%, who knows? I just know for sure this is going to happen. And when it happens, you want to be ready to actually, ready to actually do it. So I think being ready, have a list, have cash, try and accumulate at least 10, 15% cash. I think I would do it now. I think, to be honest, I think I'd start accumulating the cash now. There's been a little bit of a bounce. I'm not saying sell your long-term bags. I wouldn't sell my long-term bags, but I would sell all my over-leveraged, over-traded positions. So that's the first thing that I would do. Couple of things. So, one of the things that I saw that happened today is we had the price of Bitcoin actually go down. And there were some tokens that actually really started to move. Like Phantom. Remember yesterday in the show, I said to you, hold your Phantom. Like you want to be holding Phantom when this happens. Injective was another one on our list yesterday. Say is another one that you need to put on your list as quickly as possible, because I think that there's going to be what do they call it? Parallelization thing when Monad launches. And so Say is another one of those. One of the other ones that actually ran pretty well is a company, is a protocol called Polytrade. Now, they're one of our sponsors, but they've been our sponsor for a long time, and I haven't really spoken about them because I haven't really spoken about real world assets. But one of the things that I noticed was even in the red day today, these guys actually did very well. And what they do is they are like an Amazon for real world assets. So if you want to buy real world assets, like even things like a Tesla stock, you just go to their platform, and you can go on their platform and you can go and buy real world assets. So go and have a look. There's a link in the description below. There's also a few other links, and I think today we should just spend 2 minutes just going through some of the other links that I think are super important, because it's Black Friday. And I think that when Black Friday comes, you have to make sure that you are prepared for Black Friday, because you're going to get deals on Black Friday that you just won't get any other day. Friday. The one deal that you're never going to see again, and it's going to close on Friday, is Front Runners. That's the link over there. Trust me, do it now. You're getting it at half price. This is where all the alpha basically gets dropped. And after Black Friday, not only are you not getting Black Friday specials, but you're also, the waiting list is going to be closed. Also, when you join Front Runners, you get automatic entry into what we call the Ape Asylum, which is like a meme coin Discord that is specifically for people who are trading memes. The other thing which I think is super important is, you know Dylan, our host Dylan. So Dylan is an amazing trader. And he has created a course which is free. if you sign up before Black Friday. So just watch this.
Welcome to the Trading Accelerator. You are here because you want to learn how to amplify your gains super quick. Well, this course is designed for you. The beginning of your trading journey can be full of frustration. I've been there, and this is why I'm here, and this is why you are here. This Trading Accelerator isn't just a course. It's a shortcut to amplify your gains, and it's a shortcut to create trading confidence for you. I'm Dylan. Some of you know me as the Lord of Entry, and I have 5 promises for you. Number 1, you're going to learn simplified and actionable trading strategies that you can action immediately. Number 2, you're going to master some advanced indicators that are going to give you an edge in the market and actually simplify your trading system. Number 3, you're going to build high confidence trading setups for any market. Number 4, you're going to be able to automate your trading. Imagine setting up a trading bot on multiple tokens to make sure that you don't miss out on any trade. And finally, you're going to join a thriving trading community. This is where you're going to get trade signals. You're going to get live.
Again, Dylan's one of our good traders. He's got a course, and his course is specifically around people who want to learn how to automate their trading. If you want access to the course is free, but the indicators that you need for the course are going on Black Friday special. So this is like a not to be repeated offer. As he says, from zero to printing and profit, and you just do this in 10 days. So sign up. There's a link below. Go and sign up. You're getting the whole package. There's a Black Friday special very much on the whole package, which I think is something that you shouldn't miss. I think that's it for today. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, just consider smashing the like button one more time or subscribing to the channel. Remember to look out for the Black Friday specials below. Also the ones from exchanges where you get 10% off your trading fees if you sign up before Friday on any of our exchange partners. I shall see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friend.